Ladies and gentlemen, the Durham probe is getting closer and closer to the Clinton campaign. I wrote in the Federalist an article in 2019. You can go to my author page in the Federalist talking about the question, or asking the question, why is everything linked to the DNC and the Clinton campaign pertaining to Trump being set up and framed? Okay, you'd have to be an absolute imbecile to believe that Trump was installed by the Kremlin when every possible thing that could go wrong is taking place under President Mashed Potato Brains Biden. Everything that can go wrong. Now, there might be a peace deal eventually, where President Zelensky agrees with or accepts not joining NATO, Ukraine not joining NATO. Okay, that could have taken place prior to this horrendous conflict. But Biden and Blinken and Sullivan didn't want that. So for some reason, the projection was unbelievable. They went after Trump because under President Obama, Crimea was taken. This is a fact. Under President Trump, Ukraine was not invaded by Putin. Crimea was taken under President Obama. Ukraine is now invaded. They're near Kiev. They're about to take the capital while President Biden is in office. Then you had 20% of U.S. uranium capacity at one point being sold eventually to the Kremlin. That President Obama did not veto that sale, and millions went into the foundation. So Madam Secretary not only had private servers with top secret intelligence, which the whole world almost certainly obtained, but here you have an issue where they set up and framed Trump, and everyone that's being indicted is linked in some way to either protecting Clinton, the Democratic Party, or actually being paid by Clinton. I want to read you. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below. They're circling the Clinton campaign. And you could just look at a Politifact article. The latest with the Durham report is that Clinton campaign actually engaged in surveillance of the President of the United States. False, Politifact says. That's not false at all. The information obtained by Sussman was also surveillance that took place after January of 2017. So Politifact is actually wrong. Then what they do is they move the goalposts. So they did the same thing with Maria Bartiromo, and she was right. Biden doubled crude oil imports from Russia. He doubled crude oil, and he waived sanctions on Nord Stream 2. So who's the Putin puppet, okay? Hit subscribe to this channel. I have a segment on the possible end of the world. Nothing to do with theology, but just a nuclear confrontation every evening at around 10-11 p.m., but I'll have a segment right after, in a couple of hours after this one, on the Durham probe as well. But here, you know that the Clinton campaign, the Democrats, are basically in the sights of the Durham probe special counsel. It is a special counsel. Now, The Daily Show had a funny, where is John Durham? He doesn't even exist. No, he exists, but media doesn't want to touch it. Media does not want to treat Durham the way they treated Mueller. Why? Because they're actually being investigated for setting up and framing Trump. And they can't possibly believe that the projection that Democrats and media engaged in projection, they accuse Trump of everything they're guilty of doing, whether it's money from Uranium One or obvious quid pro quo in Hunter's emails, or Crimea being taken under President Obama's tenure, or Ukraine being invaded under Biden's tenure. We see it right now. Gas prices are through the roof. Oil prices. The market went up today. So what? We're going to see the market's down, 4,000 points or so since January? 3,000 to 4,000 points. And it's only going to get worse. I wrote about that also in the Federalist. I predicted the stock market crash that we're seeing. I said we are entering in a terrible, terrible economic recession, but also we're going to have a stock market collapse. And I told everyone this 5 months ago. Read the article in the Federalist below in the pinned comment. To my new Patreons, thank you. And if you want to give a super thanks to this segment, thank you so very much. So Politifact, you know when Politifact or when these fact-checking sites are trying desperately to spin things, you know that it's not looking good for the Democratic Party. So what took place is the following. A recent court filing, this is how they try to spin Rick Scott's statement. So Rick Scott said, yeah, the Clinton campaign paid to have tech executives, tech people, and an attorney who was indicted for lying to the FBI because he was being paid by Clinton and didn't tell James Baker, and we've talked about that. But Durham, the Politifact says, well, you know what? It had nothing to do with the Clintons, and it's false. They say if your time is short, a recent court filing by Justice Department, yes, Merrick Garland's Justice Department, and it can't stop. Special Counsel John Durham alleges that a lawyer linked to the Hillary Clinton campaign, not linked, paid directly. See, this is how they get away with moving the goalposts and essentially lying. So Politifact is essentially lying. It's not linked to Clinton. The lawyer was paid directly by Clinton, working for Clinton, not linked to Clinton, not, new Madam Secretary from a luncheon. No. Paid for a specific purpose. The purpose was to obtain as much information and a narrative and weave a contrived and fabricated narrative. That's what the indictment states. So they actually met with the Central Intelligence Agency and gave the information. Now, it says here, a recent court filing by Justice Department Special Counsel John Durham alleges that a lawyer linked to Hillary Clinton campaign shared with the Central Intelligence Agency internet traffic data concerning networks near the White House, Trump Tower, and other places associated with Trump. Okay, that alone should tell you that if Clinton and the DNC are paying for this, they are doing this for the surveillance and all the information to then weave a narrative that Trump was installed by the Kremlin. This, of course, is debunked. When they love to say debunked, they're the ones who lie the most, because they're the ones who they focus on minutia and semantics with Trump if he engages in hyperbole. And then they completely ignore the fact that political operatives, government officials, attorneys, all of these people were paid or were lifelong Democrats or aligned with the Democratic Party overtly to set up and frame Trump. Kevin Kleinsmith, the attorney at the Bureau, literally lied to a FISA judge just to prolong the investigation, fabricated information. Then Igor Danchenko, the man who was the Steele subsource, lied also. All of these people, and then Sussman lied also, but their lies have direct impact or are linked directly with trying to set up and frame Trump. So Igor Danchenko lied about the Steele dossier. None of the Steele dossier was true. Then when they say, well, the theme was true because Clapper and Brennan say that Russia wanted Trump, so therefore the theme of the Steele dossier is accurate. No, the theme isn't accurate. We have no clue if Russia wanted Trump. That's an intelligence community assessment. And it's not even a community assessment. It's 3 agencies. Moderate to high confidence assessment. They have no clue at all. They've been wrong since WMD, Gulf of Tonkin, and now this cataclysmic, horrible, terrible intelligence failure with Russia and Ukraine. So, simply saying that when you see 200,000 soldiers on the border of Ukraine that they're about to invade, that doesn't make you clairvoyant. That's obvious. What should have taken place is that Biden and Blinken and Sullivan should have met with Zelensky and Putin to prevent this tragedy and loss of life, but they didn't do that. Now they have a reason to blame high gas prices, which were going up all throughout Biden's administration. And oil and gas executives today said, hey, you need to change up. This was on oilprices.com. Told the Biden administration they need to change their energy policy, okay, because it's directly affecting gas prices. So Democrats never look in the mirror. Media will never look in the mirror. But here, if you look, the lawyer's meeting with the Central Intelligence Agency took place in early February 2017. But there's no evidence that the data he passed along was gathered after Trump became president. This is how absurd Politifact can get. Trump was president in 2017. He was already sworn in. In February, he was already president. So he's meeting with, there's no evidence the data he passed along was gathered after Trump. Who cares if it was gathered before or after? It was still information about Trump. And the surveillance, you could also say, was taking place when they were meeting with Central Intelligence Agency and giving the fabricated narrative with all the data they obtained. So, I mean, they're really splitting hairs here. They're meeting with the Central Intelligence Agency to set up and frame a president who's already in the Oval Office based on information that they obtained also after they obtained information after 2017 in January or February. So why would they not give that information? You would have to assume that the the fabricated nonsense that they obtained after Trump was in the Oval Office was not given to the Central Intelligence Agency by this attorney paid by Clinton after Trump was in the Oval Office and they had already met with Central Intelligence. It makes no sense. Of course they did. There's also no evidence the data was obtained illegally. So who cares if it was obtained legally? It's still surveillance, whether it's legal or not or illegal. The filing also doesn't say the Clinton campaign directed the effort. The filing states that the Clinton campaign was one of the VIPs that was, yes, not only directing the effort, paying for it. So when Politifact is bending over, twisting itself into pretzels, trying to protect the Clinton campaign, Durham you have Kash Patel, John Ratcliffe, Tom Fitton, everyone who's looking at this and knows what's going on, infinitely more than I do, is saying that top officials and top attorneys and top people directly associated or paid by the Clinton campaign or DNC or working essentially on behalf of them are going to get indicted. Hit subscribe to this channel. It's a very important segment. If you've lasted this long, share it everywhere. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Thanks, everybody.